Feel my arms holding on so tight just when you need it most. Feel the freedom of being careless, just being in love. Everything will be alright. Through the darkness, through the night, no fear anymore. No fear anymore. No fear anymore.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to week 4 of the new League of Legends Varsity Spring Split. I am Will Brackish Britt Brooks, joined once again by the illustrious Callum Melvinizel Isles. Callum, the scramble for playoffs is well and truly on.
Certainly is. Today we are bringing you some spicy games. As for our first one, we have DMU T1, one of the leading pack members of our Varsity lineup, against Lincoln Ascended, a team who is vying for their last playoff spot.
Yeah, and of course, let's talk about Lincoln Ascended first, because everyone knows about DMU T1, Winter Split winners, and in the NSC. Let's talk about Lincoln Ascended first. They're in a rather awkward spot at the moment in the brackets, or so it would seem. They sit at 8th, but with a strong strength of schedule for the next week, it actually looks chances are pretty good for them hitting playoffs.
Certainly so. There's pretty much only, I believe it's only Grey Warwick of something like 4th right now that isn't in some level of tie. Them and Bristol Whipped, who we'll be covering in our second game. But as far as Lincoln go, they have a pretty nice lineup after they get through DMU T1. Their only other difficult opponent is Careless, but they do have, other than that, a very easy strength of schedule with regards to it. So expect them to be one of the ones that we might see just barely edge into that last 8th place playoff spot. Teams like Hurtstuck are the ones that are looking to compete with them. So really keeping an eye out for them and see what ends up happening next week. The only people that can lock in their playoff spots this week are those that can hit 7 wins.
Well, speaking of, you were talking about Bristol Whipped, the one team that has already completely locked in playoffs. It's now a matter of where in the playoff bracket they are going to land.
Certainly in that upper half we can come to expect. We will be covering our first versus second place teams, Bristol Whipped at 7-0 and Cabbage Family at 6-1, coming up after this first game. And if Cabbage can win that game, they themselves will also lock a place in playoffs.
Yeah, they'll tide that one up with Bristol Whipped. Back to the game at hand, however, let's have a look-see. So, first things foremost. Actually, I suppose second things, since we already talked about the other one. But 11.5. We're on a new patch. We avoided it last time because the patch was pushed back a day, I believe.
Yeah, it was just one because I had to do it the next day as well, but we got okay for this one as far as it goes. It didn't look like there were too many big champion changes. Some heavy hitters in the meta like Seraphine and Rel got just slightly toned down, but sleeper item I think is the biggest change of the patch is Stridebreaker.
You've been talking about it for like 15 minutes before we started, so I'm fully geared up. But break it down for everyone at home. Why is Stridebreaker so broken now?
Well, what they opted to do was, as this item it's a bruiser item, it's a juggernaut item, these kind of things. We even saw once Gore Drinker got took down a notch, even champions like Aatrox started to take it, and all they did was they slightly shifted the numbers, but the main thing being they gave it a ever so slightly increase in the range from 200 of a dash to 300 and lowered the slow by 20% down to 40 on current. Now, in English, what that means is when the Darius scoots forward at you, they scoot a little bit further, but that little bit is just enough more that combined with the slow that comes after the dash for the actual Stridebreaker proc, it's a pretty disgusting gap closer.
Absolutely is. And another pick that at least I'm happy to see, or rather some of the teams, DMU T1 in particular, quite happy to see a buff to Karma on this patch. A Q cooldown reduction of 1 second doesn't sound like much, but it was already a pretty low cooldown ability to begin with.
Certainly is one of those abilities that it is their main tool in lane. It's going to be one of those ones that gets spammed off of cooldown, so we can more than likely see this be pretty significant for this week.
Absolutely. So, I think most people at home, if we got round to the, if we did a poll immediately, not even seeing the draft, we'd see a favour for DMU T1.
Yeah, one might think that considering it is a 5-2 versus a 2-5. But as far as it goes, it is definitely possible for them to take over this game. And Lincoln Ascended do have their own respective win conditions. As far as it goes, both teams play relatively similar with regards to when they do end up winning the game.
Yes, they absolutely do. They're both teams looking to play through the top lane. Obviously, Alpha Moss... Actually, that's the wrong team. Alpha Moss is Cabbage family. Angler top, that's the name. Loves playing Camille, loves playing these split push style champions, likes to try and get advantages early and really power those through as the game continues onwards.
Certainly so, and people may remember from last week, if you were tuning in, you got to see Bristol whipped against DMUT1 in a dramatic finish that was only ended by a solitary Rise auto attack from Samjay to last hit the Nexus. And you know what, as close as that one was, I doubt we'll be seeing as close of a match this time, but considering how late in that game it started to go, there's always the chance for a reverse sweep to happen from Lincoln in this week. They can opt for champions like you're talking to me about the Zac that D2X has been playing.
Absolutely has been. Obviously not a very strong early champion, as you were saying, but the engage potential, the sustain, the tankiness that he can give in a chaotic team fight it can never be understated.
Certainly not. I was always quite the Zac player myself when I was in the Newell, but you know, we don't need to talk about those days right now. We're focusing on these teams and how they're going to look about it. We've got a pretty standard-looking style for DMUT1. They like to go almost traditional, where they play through their bot lane, get very aggressive in that lane. Tristana has been picked 5 times by Sosu in this bot lane as the ADC. And as far as it goes, the rest of the map almost just plays to facilitate. You have a somewhat tanky top lane, standard mage mid lane, and then a jungler who just does what they have to do in this current meta of farming, gank off, camp cooldown.
Yes, although it is worth noting that lack of information, perhaps heavy dubstep's jungle pool does look a little bit limited. We've seen a lot of Graves, we've seen some Nidalee, and we've seen a Jarvan. No Lilia to speak of, no Udyr to speak of.
Yeah, these are pretty primary junglers right now. Udyr did get hit on this patch, but frankly, I don't think they are really knocked out of the meta. We might even see them opt for that Strikebreaker. Yeah.
They calculate that first clear, like they lost 7 seconds off it or something like that.
It's
for
not,
a full clear.
It's not ridiculous. It is like something. The main point being that Udyr still full clears their jungle before the Scuttle Crab spawns. And that's really the threshold you need to hit. The only real difference is sometimes if you're not pitch point perfect on the way, you can get there maybe just about 312, so as the Scuttle's starting to pop up. But in most situations, it doesn't hurt Udyr too much. It's mainly going to be in those team fights against tankier members where you would get multiple Phoenix stances off in a fight that becomes relevant. Oh boy, we're ready.
Champ select, ladies and gentlemen. DMUT1 had the privilege of side selection, as you can see. They'll be on the blue side, immediately banning away the Yone. That's got to be away from Otter, right?
I would certainly think so. It is one of these champions that has been pretty disgusting in the past few weeks of really any competitive play. We even see Whippo tried to pull out in the LEC this week. Top lane didn't go so well, but with regards to the rest of the picks, still pretty standardized.
Well, speaking of not standardized, rather, we see a second ban away from Otter with the Viego. Varel actually looking quite meta, but Lincoln Ascended going for very much respect bans. Soxu does not get his Tristana, and they're going to take away the Morgana from Didal as well. Last one is the Seraphine. We'll see. Obviously, we're only day 1 of the patch, so as you were saying, we don't really know how much that Seraphine nerf has affected her.
Ooh.
I'd be happy to see that Karma. I'd be very happy to see that Karma. There we go. Okay, so immediately, 2 role flex. Both Samjay and Didal play the champion.
And that is a pretty powerful role to have as your first pick. Notoriously, champions like Pantheon have always been very powerful on blue side first pick, because if you can chuck them into any which role, now if I'm Lincoln, what do I actually draft? Because that Karma could go mid, they could go bot, they could even go top. It doesn't really matter to me, but it looks like Bean Cuisine, taken over today, is going to opt for the Jinx, a pretty recently buffed hyper carry that we haven't really got to see come back into prevalence, but has very much been rumoured to be strong since their most recent round of buffs.
Very good to see. We'll have to see what the other pick up here. I wouldn't be surprised if for D2X, if he's on tank duty, to just pick his jungler now. If he's willing to sort of concede that he might be losing out a little bit. Nope, they are going to go for the priority for Angler top, that Camille that he loves so much.
Okay, so watch out here, because Spirit is a Renekton player. So that is a potential champion that can come in, and we know how hard that matchup can be for Camille historically. Something to note is that on the most recent patch, Camille did actually get a bug fix. That means their tactical sweep will factor in the outer range damage. So they actually got hit pretty hard on that most recent nerf they got about 2 patches ago. So almost inadvertently toning that back, as it looks like it's going to be the set coming out for Spirit this game.
Do you think that's a Stride Breaker set? I certainly do.
Yes, of course, of course. He loves that champion, and that item even, sorry, it makes them go very quick, and we might even see it get paired with the recently buffed Black Cleaver that now gives movement speed again.
Yeah, the Butcher passive that they tried to give to it didn't work out too well, so they revert it to pretty much pre-Season 11 standards. The pickup for Soxu, however, is going to be the Caitlyn. We've seen one game of it. We saw it on stream, actually, I believe.
Yeah, and they were playing that with Morgana. Obviously, Karma could go still into the mid lane, or that could be the support pick paired with it. Caitlyn loves these kind of ranged enchanters that can do a good amount of poke damage, as it helps them get push priority in lane, shred through that first tier tower, and we'll have to see what support gets paired with Jinx for this Piltover bot lane.
Yeah, I'm interested to see what Didal will choose. Obviously, the Morgana is gone. Potential for the Lux. I have seen some Lux support popping up with Guardian. Quite impressively, Udyr didn't actually get picked in the first rotation at all, so the teams may be putting quite a lot of stock on that 11.5 change.
Yeah, it is something that if you haven't had time to play around with it, when you just see numbers getting chunked out of a champion who is so high up in regard for the meta, it's kind of just a case of, if you don't go ahead and practice it, you kind of just assume it, and it's really hard to just actually calculate these numbers off the top of your head. But we see it goes away. Very important that we see that Graves also banned away, as that is one of those champions that can be a nuisance for Skarner in this early game. So as far as it goes right now, Galio off the table. That is a champion that we know can be paired brilliantly with Camille for that Camille ult into Galio ult combo. And another global knockdown for Otter on this Lincoln squad.
Furthermore, Graves, very prolifically played by Heavy Dubstep, so we'll have to see him dig a little deeper into his champion pool for this game. Obviously, we are into phase 2 of the picks. We will see where priority goes. I don't expect to see a Vel'Koz, although I might have a couple of friends who'd be very happy to see that.
And it's not going to get locked in. It will just be the Alistair. I don't know how I truly feel about this with the Jinx necessarily, because it means that Being Cuisine is going to be left alone in that bot lane quite often, and a melee support into this double ranged bot lane means that they're going to get poked out extremely so. We saw Elo Harvester playing the Seraphine last week, and they definitely had a penchant for face checking, so at least now they have the kit to be allowed to do it.
Yeah, and of course, Headbutt can just be used for safety's sake if he does decide to end up having decent lane priority to his carry. It looks like Heavy Dubstep is going to opt towards the Olaf, nerfed several times in Season 11, but still keeps on cropping up. I think we can all, quite fresh in the minds, remember Jankos's performance against Fnatic with that pick.
Certainly so, and with that Olaf lock-in, that does look like it will be Karma potentially heading into a solo lane, but no, they pivot it to Orianna. This is another champion. Actually, both of these put together, the Karma and the Orianna, can slap their movement speed tools onto this Olaf, and with the Stride Breaker in tow, it's pretty hard to avoid. Even Azir, the Emperor of Shurima, cannot shuffle back Olaf if they are in ult. Yes, the wall will be something, so it looks like they're deciding, well, we can't really stop them chasing us, so we'll just get a bit of map mobility, try and get over the walls with Otter on this Corki pick, provides defensive tools, but it fully commits Lincoln Ascended to a scaling comp.
It absolutely does, so we'll have to see how they try to play this one out. Obviously, looking at the setup, Jinx does not really come online until 2 items, so if Lincoln Ascended want to play through anywhere, it's going to have to be Angler and top.
Certainly so. They actually did pop off last week. They had a rough lane phase where they got put behind initially into this Renekton matchup, but after that they proceeded to just absolutely sprint through fights. Multiple kills going down. I believe at one point they were 8-1 in that game. Did end up pulling out the dub against ESSKT. Now they're going to be looking to do it against Spirit's set in this top lane. However, something to note is this Olaf, very powerful early ganker, while D2X on the Skarner can clear at similar speeds. the ganking power is not the same.
It absolutely is not, especially not in the early stages at least. Of course, Skarner will become what I like to call the QSS police later into the game. If you do not pay your taxes, you will absolutely have the taxman coming for you.
Certainly so, but Olaf is a long-time tax avoidance member, as they have always been considered a very powerful pick into Skarner, because he just slaps down the Ragnarok, is immune to CC, and just sprints it through. Like, you can't ult this champion. Unless you have a level advantage as Skarner and you're 6-5, you are just instantly without one target you can ever use your ult on.
Looking at the team comp as a whole, actually, from DMU T1, we're not seeing that many stellar ult targets. Soxu is playing Caitlyn, very long range carry, often builds the rapid fire cannon as well, so getting there is going to be a challenge. Spirit's got so much peel, he can face break, or he can just showstopper D2X all the way back into his team, so it's going to be kind of difficult for him to find value in these fights unless he's hex flashing from somewhere out of vision.
Certainly so. I think it may end up being used almost reactively onto Spirit ulting somebody this game to try and drag them back into the Corki and Jinx death chamber. However, we'll have to see what ends up happening this game, and for yourselves in chat, you can make sure to look and try and predict what you think is going to happen based on these comps.
Spend all the points!
There you go.
We've got a little bit more time before we get into game, and I think it's not a bad time to mention our wonderful sponsors for the Varsity split. Unite Students, Twitch Student, and Logitech G. Thank you very much for the support. There are links below the stream if you want to check any of those out.
And thanks again to our wonderful sponsors. But as for this game, which lane do you want to talk about first?
Well, I said about the top lane being the focus if Lincoln Ascended want to do anything in the early game. So how do you think the Camille set matchup plays out? Matchup.
Well, whilst Camille does have the physical damage shield in that passive, both champions have a pretty mediocre level 1 because you don't really have that much sticking power onto each other. It's really just each of them will either start Q more than likely, or Camille may just start their Hextech sweep to try and keep set at a distance. So not much is going to happen in the first level, but level 2, whoever hits that first, can force a very hard trade onto the other. Once it starts to get into more of a developed lane state, around the 3rd to 4th minion wave, then Camille will just be rather safe, able to just spam out those Ws onto Set, try and poke them down. Set won't really get too affected, and it's mainly going to be down to if either laner starts something super aggressive onto the other in the minion wave, or if a jungler makes their way up there.
Okay, so how are we thinking this is going to, the map as a whole is going to play then? If we were saying that aggression, if at all, is going to come from the Lincoln Ascended top lane, DMU T1, it's Soxu and Didal. They're not just going to play passive.
Yeah, these two have been pretty explosive as far as it goes. There's a reason that Soxu has had 5 Tristana games in their pocket. They have been lane dominant to a T. Between them and Didal, they have had one of the highest kill participations, both respectively, in their roles. So, as we head into this game, it's going to be a key point of focus for the MUT1 to keep that bot lane ahead. However, something to note is, while they are very oppressive, given their range, an Alistar into Skarner is enough that they can focus out and kill either of these two. So if there's a flash blown from either of this Caitlyn or Karma in the early game, watch, because that is a danger point for DMU-T1.
It absolutely is, yeah. D2X, neither of them known for their sustain.
Yeah,
if they get grabbed, I think it is pretty much a done deal, aside from some tomfoolery.
Yeah, which I don't think is really going to happen. And something again to talk about this Tristana is they have the ability to buffer CC with the rocket jump. Caitlyn has no such ability with their Hextech net, I believe it is, something like that. Point being,
caliber net, yeah.
That's the one. Alistar can just jump into you and interrupt it midway through, which isn't really great because Caitlyn's massive range doesn't do too much when you get an Hex flashed on. So what I want to see in this bot lane is who gets the level 1 bush control, because this is something that ranged champions like the Karma need to be getting if they want to survive this level 1-2 kind of range. We saw it in LEC, I believe it was Hillisang, punishing not getting bush control on, I believe it was Rel. But as we get into this game, we'll have to see who can get bot pro.
Certainly so. Still in goal lines now. As we can see, the map setting up pretty standard lines of scrimmage. Nothing too exciting coming out. Elo Harvester spots Didal coming through that bottom river brush, but no action will be taking place just yet. Seems like Lincoln Ascended know that the ward was placed in the topside pixel brush, and they will pick up the spires. Very helpful, obviously, for Skarner's clear, mana sustain, giving him extra attack speed.
Certainly so, and we'll give over a little bit of information, actually, to let both teams know who is getting a leash in the jungle. We actually see that Lincoln's bot lane is looking like they're trying to fake leash, but Didal is in the river. They're recapturing that spire now. Takes away a bit of the mobility that they could get if they would look to invade Heavy Dubstep Remix's red buff. And what we see here is because of the fake leash, Karma does manage to get bush control level 1.
She does, yeah, and they are going to push in this lane. So right now, CS is relatively slow, trades back and forth at level 1 between Samjay and Otter, but it is very much just almost like throwing origami at each other.
Yeah, not all too much, and considering that both junglers have actually started on their top side jungles, they're going to be pathing down now, which means this is going to be a very isolated lane. In this case, it is really just down to if Spirit can punish Angler for stepping up and looking for these Ws. They do hit the level 2 first, so like we were saying in the preamble, it does mean that they are going to get lane control, and as we see a big trade in the mid lane, actually.
Otter taken down by quite a chunk with that command dissonance, although did not actually opt to start with the cooking potion, has the Doran's Blade, will be able to gradually sustain themselves back up with the auto attacks on the waves.
Certainly so, as Anglertop does get the lead up here, but Soxu and Didal in the bot lane are doing what they should be, keeping both Bean Cuisine and Elo Harvester down in levels at this point in the game. It is very oppressive to lane in this kind of champion, and as we can see here, actually just trapping them under the turret. This is 2 tower shots taken though for Soxu, and with D2X in the area.
The engage from Elo Harvester, going to jump forward. He does not have the E available though, so the follow-up stun is not there. Soxu will get away, the Ignite and Flash already burnt. Didal is going to keep his carry safe for the time being. I like the aggression coming out from Elo Harvester there, really punishing those attacks that Soxu took.
Certainly so, and both junglers are in this current area. It is going to be the Skullcrab over the Heavy Dubstep Remix. Neither jungler has Smite up, so we'll have to see, but Caitlyn has just recalled. They could potentially look to force something if they want to, and they are just sending the bot lane of Lincoln up to almost try and zone them off the crab.
They're looking for it. It is currently a 3v2, obviously. Didal and Heavy Dubstep are there. Samjay is coming down from the mid lane, however. The Spire is there in favour of Lincoln Ascended. The root's going to get put onto Elo Harvester. No flash available. There is the catch, and Heavy Dubstep will sink the axe into the back of the bull, taking first blood.
So, considering Alistair didn't have their flash from that bot play, what this means now is that they're going to be coming to base, but Caitlyn and Karma are just given free lane control once again. Level 3 to Bean Cuisine's level 2. They're going to get zoned off of so much CS, and in the process of that, Caitlyn got the recall and grabbed himself a cull. So they're going to happily just farm up through this lane, and around about the point where Soxu is meant to be most deadly on this Caitlyn, the 2-item mark give or take, they are going to be even more so as they will accelerate off of this early cull.
They have, yes, they will. Looking towards the top side, Heavy Dubstep Remix is going to get the double scuttle against D2X, getting a healthy advantage. Otter going to get chunked out by the command distance, going to have to look to flash to safety. Does get over the wall. Samjay is actually going to try and chase this one down. Last auto attack will take that one down. 2-0 for DMUT1 right now.
And what we could see there was that Otter didn't have enough mana for Valkyrie. They were just too far up in the lane. D2X is going to try and take some of these Raptors, but they are just not allowed to. While Corky's TPing back in, Samjay will be shortly behind. However, Heavy Dubstep Remix is caught in the river.
Yep, get caught quite low, does not have Flash, had opted for the Ghost, will eventually get taken down. D2X is going to drop quite low, but the follow-up is not going to be there. Anglertop actually going for the dive on towards Samjay. There's no Flash available, does not get the kill though, and Anglertop is going to fall! That was a botched tower dive from the Lincoln Ascended top laner.
And everything going wrong for Lincoln. They tried to get the counter, staying for a long time without basing for most of the DMUT1 members, but they do not get punished for it, and in fact, get rewarded for their overzealousness in these plays.
Yeah, and right now we can see Bean Cuisine really struggling this oppressive bot lane. The range of Caitlyn is very hard to deal with. Teleport coming in on towards the bot lane. However, Bean Cuisine might not even survive that. Zap comes through. D2X comes over the blast cone. Didal dropped incredibly low. Does have flash available, but is going to not use it. He knows he is not going to be able to survive this one. Soxu is going to try and get away. Nope, there is no escape for you, kind sir. Anglertop picks up the double kill. There is no trade back. The Drake is available here, but Bean Cuisine very low. Looks like he's just going to try and push out the lane and maybe take a recall.
Yeah, I would like to see some resets from Lincoln as they go for it, but they should have tried to help Bean Cuisine shove out this minion wave, because if Karma can get back quick enough, they could potentially look to freeze this lane. Looks like they won't. That does get the top side ahead for Lincoln now, but we can see that Spirit on the other side has managed to pick up a kill's worth of gold in just tower plates, while Anglertop has been losing out on this XP. And it looks like Dubstep Remix is
Hello,
out of position.
Dubstep Remix. Does not get caught by the stun there. He does not land. Levels up to 6 off of the Krug camp. Just going to keep on healing. Anglertop will take him down in revenge, but Spirit has a level advantage right now, so he cannot continue the fight. He's just going to sit back onto his tower for now. Samjay is actually up there in the top lane tribe rush. I'm not sure if Lincoln Center have vision of that, but Anglertop giving good respect, knowing that Samjay is not in the mid lane right now.
And crucially, while that fight was happening over the Krugs, it goes massively in DMU's favor because they missed like 3 minion waves for Anglertop under the turret. They were all crashed in by the set. Everybody groups up together around this Krug fight. As you said there, Dubstep manages to just barely tick over to 6 and gets the complete outplay of Conqueror proc into the kill onto Skarner. Does send them back to base, coming off now, and they are getting delayed to their level 6 mark, which is really bad when you're the Skarner.
Yeah, is this man ever going to be able to get an ult off this game? Stay tuned to find out. 8 minutes in the game, 4 kills to 4, but that does not tell the story right now, as DMU hold a 1k, well, nearly 1.5k gold lead at this early stage. Anglertop is very much where all the eggs of the Lincoln basket are right now.
And it seems like deja vu for this team, as it is basically what happened last week. And as we can see here, big trade from Spirit. They're just trying to chunk them out, make it so they can look to opt for a freeze. Set is allowed to take these kind of just aggressive trades and minion waves because they sustain off of their passive, which is basically just health regen for all intents and purposes. Think Mundo, but with some extra stuff written down. And then, combined with the fact that they don't use mana, they have absolutely no problem freezing this wave. And look, Anglertop walking back to lane, look at the CS gap start to eclipse in this top wave. It's almost going to equate to a further kill. And if we can take a look at the gold between these two laners, I'd like to see how far the difference actually is between them. Okay.
The advantage still. Anglertop, with those 3 kills, it's not immensely behind in CS, not insurmountably at least. Never mind, there's the aggression on towards the bot lane. They are not letting Soxu have a good time. D2X looking, running. There's the smite, there is the fracture. Grabs Didal, pulls him away from the tower. This second kill will go down. The Mantrid R is not enough to survive. Elohav's going under the tower here, takes the hit but does not go down in return. And there's a good proactive play. The bottom lane of DMU gets punished for being so far up.
Absolute razor's edge for that Alistar, nearly getting dropped in the middle of that engagement right there. And big trades happening in this top lane, but what that means is what we saw there is Bean Cuisine actually managed to pick up the kills crucially there. In the previous fights, they were not allowed to because of how low they were from the Caitlyn and the Karma poking them down, but they pick up a majority of the gold off of this, managed to get a plate on top of that, and Bean Cuisine is going to be
a solo plate as well.
There you go, and this is just an attempt to slow the recall down for them, so Caitlyn and Karma can try and collapse the tower before they get back.
Zoning ult.
They basically, yeah, in all honesty, and it might actually make the difference. That is, just because they managed to get that ult off, because Bean Cuisine opted to take that control ward, they are definitely going to manage to get 1 plate for free in the spot lane. Hard to tell if they will be able to take the full turret, but they're certainly going to give it their best shot because they want Sozu out of this lane. They want them rotating, pressuring onto the top lane turret, because this is what Caitlyn's always been known for, is the early tower pressure.
Trading once again onto Anglertop in the top lane, funnily enough. It looks fairly even, both of them obviously pretty good sustained champions. Bean Cuisine makes it back to the bot lane. Items right now actually look quite heavily in Bean Cuisine's favour, but it also seems that, obviously, with the slight sidetrack for Soxu to pick up that cull, that will be easily recouped when that item gets finished off.
Certainly so, and something that I want to point out is because Soxu opted for this boots, it gives them a bit more, almost just safety against this Alistar pick, because it just allows them to live on the edge like this, but not when they have that happen.
Absolutely. DMX bot lane once again. Soxu gets out with the heal once again, but the Super Mega Death Rocket will not allow any of that tomfoolery. Illuharvester going to try and chase down onto Didal. The smite is there. Fracture once again, and they are heavily punishing this DMU bot lane. Didal will fall. Another kill picked up onto Bean Cuisine. Now 4-0 on the Jinx. This is getting accelerated far quicker than you would like with a scaling champion, a hyper carry almost. Like Jinx.
Yeah, and Caitlyn, known for their tower destruction, but Jinx is definitely no newbie to the plate taking game, and they're going to be unlocked to just shred through this turret for the moment. And something I was going to talk about is because of the boots, it means that Caitlyn wants to be out of this lane even quicker, rotating and actually using those shoes' movement speed to rotate, get to different lanes, and just push out plates. But if they can't even knock down their own turret, what hopes they have of doing elsewhere? But we do see Heavy Dubstep Remix has that Rift Herald, is in bot lane, ready to place it. If they do not get this tower off of just sheer Caitlyn and Karma tomfoolery, it looks like they're just going to opt to take the Rift Herald down here in case.
Another zoning ace in the hole comes out from Soxu, preventing the Lincoln Ascended bot lane from escaping to their base in a timely fashion at least. And with a single plate up, it looks like Heavy Dubstep Remix is just going to say it's not worth putting the Herald down just for that.
Certainly not, but that can't have too much time left now, only 1 minute before the plating disappears, key point. As we see now, the bot lane for DMUT1 is rotating straight to mid, but there's a Jinx with Kraken Slayer in pocket, walking to counter push them.
Indeed, Arthur is going to get hit onto with the Karma W. Tries to walk back towards the lane, but is very much zoned away by the 4 members of DMU that are present. Herald will go down. I was almost expecting to see a shockwave there, but Otter is going to step away. He's having to take the long route back to his turret, and DMU may suffer. D2X tries to come over the wall. Illuharvester has been caught out. Samjay should be able to pick that one up. Does indeed. 8-5 in the kills right now. The most elite of times about to be hit. There it is. And this is looking like a pretty elite game, actually. Lincoln Ascended are absolutely hitting back with DMU punch for punch.
Yeah, 2k gold behind and gonna be 2 dragons down, but your key members you want fed are. As a big fight starts off here, and this Karma has to use Flash to get out.
Yep, Didal flashes away immediately. Second, Drake was picked up. Great flash away from the shockwave there, but Spirit says there's none of that kind, sir. And we'll throw down with the face breaker and the showstopper to pick up the kills. This mid lane tower is not long for this world.
Okay, when I said 2k gold lead, I meant to say 4k gold lead. And when I said it was 4 to 8 kills, clearly I was just, about to say 8 to 8, and I coughed a little bit. Because what we can see here is DMU just kind of swept the fight immediately after. A minor misposition. They tried to punish onto Didal, but the Jinx traps did not catch them before they managed to flash out. And everybody's all grouped up in a small area. Orianna, Olaf, Set. These champions are loving it. And what we saw there was just absolute dominance. Is going to snowball this mid-jungle duo of Samjay and Heavy Dubstep Remix out of control in these next coming fights.
Absolutely, and now with that fight victory, we will see that the Kraken Slayer is picked up in kind for Soxu. Caitlyn's kind of an interesting one when it comes to mythic items. The synergies not quite as prevalent as there are on a lot of the other ADCs.
Certainly not. She's a bit of a weird champion where for the longest time she just wanted to get one big headshot auto attack in, then walk away and just weave in with that. So really the only item isn't just raw AD that they would only ever go for would be the rapid fire, and even then it was always more efficient for them to just get IE second. And since that's not an option you can opt for anymore, it does leave Caitlyn in a bit of a weird spot once they get out of lane. Later on they could be a pretty deadly hyper carry as they always have been able to. But when you're looking at Jinx on the other end, who has a bit further range, a bit more attack speed, just generally, it's still not an exactly favourable matchup at any point in the game now, considering that Sosu isn't ahead as much as they had really wanted to be on this pick with the Karma.
And despite the fact that super early in the game, Bean Cuisine was basically completely unable to farm. I think he didn't get any CS off of the first, 2 waves. He's only 9 CS down. Oh, yes, 9 CS down. And of course, has those 4 kills, scaling very nicely the later and later this game goes.
But that item, that damn item, Set picks up the Stride Breaker now. This is something that I want to be looking at. Potentially if we can get an eye on Set and Camille the next time they run into each other for a trade. Because while Camille does have the Triforce, that gives them a lot of damage, Set can extend the trade to allow them to get full use out of their passive double auto attacks and really start to rip through this Camille, because it's really 2 items when they start to come online.
Sanjay putting the big damage down onto Otter. Might try and chase this down. The shockwave does land. One more Q. Command attack will get Otter down. Sanjay going to play the carry for his team. 4-0 and 4. There appears to be some kind of error, Callum.
Yeah, really nicely done for Samjay in the air. Stepping too far up, we can see they've only just managed to complete that Immortal Shield Bow. And yes, Corki has always been the 6 items, supreme damage from long range, poke monster that can one-shot. He is not getting to that point in any reasonable time frame. And if you take a look at the carries on the DMU squad...
Fractured, bye-bye, Sox 2.
So if you take a look at the carries for DMUT1, they're currently diving the Lincoln Tower. Come on now, Sosu, get it together. As that Skarner is just really oppressive. They're allowed to get on top of you, and Caitlyn just dying, has both sums available, opting to not burn them. I don't think that's a terrible decision, considering the dragon is up soon. But frankly, getting picked out like that is really not what you want to see from your ADC.
Gotta tell you, Callum, I'm not a fan of this corrupt Piltover police force not paying their taxes.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at it, the mid laners opt to pay for it. They have already picked the Quicksilver Sash now on this Orianna, so at this point, D2X is down 2 targets to potentially ult in these fights. Still plenty, though. You don't really want to take Spirit if you're in any better situation, so it's only 2
If you have any hope of not getting Showstoppered back into your team,
no,
that's probably not the target. Otter is just going to get run back here. Heavy Dubstep Remix adds insult to injury. There is no way that this is going to go any way other than a Corki sent back to the fountain. The kill will be donated over to Heavy Dubstep Remix. 5-2 and 2. Has actually opted to go for the Gore Drinker, despite its many nerfs rather than the Stride Breaker that you hoped.
Yeah, I'd be curious why they went for that, but you can't really complain when the enemy has 3 melee champions and the Corki's playing in melee range, so, you know, they're getting good Gore Drinker value. They do have the Rift Herald now in Heavy Dubstep Remix's inventory. Teleport coming out now from Samjay. They want to get this next Ocean Dragon and threaten the Soul Point. We're likely to see them just chuck this Rift Herald down in a lane so that Dubstep Remix can actually scry around the area. Counter TP's coming out, though, from Lincoln. It's going to be a fight.
Absolutely is. There is the package available. This is the time for Otter to do stuff. Elo Harvester goes aggressive. Samjay is shut down. Spirit is actually the target for the Fracture, and he's going to tank it up very nicely. Heavy Dubstep Remix gets onto a rampage. Elo Harvester looking for the engage again, but great flash away from Soxu, gets to safety. However, it is Lincoln Ascended that have the position on the Drake. Elo Harvester actually gets taken down by the Drake here. It looks like in the 3v3 situation, they're actually fairly confident to step on this. Otter, you are not tanky enough or doing enough damage right now to deal with that one. Spirit will take down Otter. The massive hit from the Haymaker, and Lincoln Ascended fall apart. Ocean Soul is right on the table for DMUT1. 6.5k now their gold lead.
And that fight looked so in the favor for Lincoln, but nobody tanked up the Ocean Dragon hit, so it knocks down Elo Harvester on the side, and when you don't have that Alistair as a threat, nor Smite up on D2X, both junglers just kind of looking at each other, and the second that it's even numbers advantage, Corki is not far enough ahead to be able to actually make meaningful poke compared to the Caitlyn. So we just saw that DMUT1 got to walk back in there, and with the double bruises of the Set and the Olaf, just enough health on the 2 of them that they were more than willing to sprint on through, managed to tear through the Lincoln remaining members. does get that dragon, like you said, in their favor, and more importantly, is going to pump a lot of gold onto this set for the side lane. So what should have been a winning matchup for the Camille once they tick over to their next item is going to be even harder for them to opt for, and I believe that might actually be Set opting to build the Black Cleaver now, which is a ridiculous amount of movement speed that you can stack up with these two items, and would make it so it's almost impossible to escape them in the side.
Oh, heavy dubstep.
Oh.
Just walks in, drive-by smiting. It's now very interesting lane assignments right now. Samjay versus Angler in the top side. D2X is about, but obviously it has been spotted out on that Rift Scuttle side zone.
And I really don't like what Lincoln had going on there. They had both Claw and Jinx in lane. They're two primary wave clearers, and the character to be just soaking up as much XP as they can. Does mean that they're both going to get slowed down. The Rift Herald finally comes out, but watch this Alistair, and then nothing happens.
Still, the threat might well have been enough. The tower is absolutely forfeit. Shelly will put paid to that one. It looks like the members of DMU are just going to step away right now. The Shelly will be thanked for her service and sent back to the void.
And something I want to talk about is Bean Cuisine is about to finish what looks like the Runans, and if they do opt for that, yeah, there we go. There was a bug fix on this patch. I know I've been spotting these bad boys, but what was happening is that the Hurricane bolts was applying individual stacks of Conqueror, so you would rapidly get it a lot quicker than you had any right to. And Jinx and Aphelios are really the only two champions this applied to, but it does mean in these fights, Bean Cuisine is going to need a bit more time to ramp up and start actually getting max value from that Conqueror, because obviously harder to stack for range champions, and without that bug speeding up the process, it does mean that they're going to need a bit more time, so the hit and run from this Orianna getting a sneaky shockwave can spell massive damage into the Lincoln squad.
Exactly what I was going to say, Callum. Does he have the time for that setup with the shockwaves, with the setup, with the Olaf running at him? Does he have the time for that? Elo Harvester trying to go aggressive onto Didal there. It's more of a slap on the wrist as the supports meet in the mid lane.
Yeah, I don't think they do, frankly, as so much damage could come out from this Orianna. They have the two completed, not to mention that the officer has finally decided to pay her taxes with a QSS. That really means that Karma is the only good target for D2X, and with the dragon spawning in 1 minute and 30, I would like to see potentially some kind of Baron threat from the Jinx Corki double ADC comp to dissuade that, because you can't walk into this jungle if they've had time to set up. Caitlyn traps are going to be far too oppressive. You don't have the map mobility to get D2X over a wall. And really, this just looks like a clean shutout coming out if DMU T1 are not stopped at this next Ocean Dragon.
Just over a minute until that objective spawns, and right now it is only DMU T1. In fact, neither team has vision super close to the dragon. Both teams have a control ward in that red side blue jungle, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I get what you're talking about. And something that is pretty interesting between these two teams, while they have very games, their loss time is pretty distinctly different. Lincoln have an average loss time of 25 minutes compared to DMU's average loss time of 30 minutes. Obviously, Lincoln have a bit bigger sample size for their lost games, but point being, you can see that DMU T1 still are at a point where they're very comfortable. They like to get this soul pressure, and frankly, Lincoln have all but forfeit the objective at this point.
Yeah, they are just absolutely letting this one go. Or rather, the resets are just far too late. Anglertop is going to step onto Vision. The hookshot wall dive will get him out to safety right now, but it is all DMU T1 Vision in this area. 3 Caitlyn traps completely close off that area. 5 Caitlyn traps.
And D2X is not laughing. This is a lot of damage. Watch, they have smite and flash ups. This could be
Otter
a flip.
is there with the package. The coin is going to be flipped. It is going to be the soul picked up. Spirit throws D2X back towards his team. This is so chaotic. Heavy Dubstep Remix is going to take down Anglertop in the pit. Down goes Elo Harvester as well. The trade will be there as Spirit will fall. Everyone else is going down, however, the only remaining member is Otter, and I think Heavy Dubstep Remix is just going to feel himself enough to run this one down. There is no escape for the Corki. That is a clean ace pickup, soul pickup. DMU T1 can push these lanes in. Inhibitors are for the taking.
And there is really nothing that Lincoln can do against these champions with an Ocean Soul. The speed from Orianna and Karma, we saw right there actually Bean Cuisine had escaped the fight, but not wanting to take the brunt of the Caitlyn ultimate. They tried to juke back behind a member, but they were a bit too fast for their own good, and everybody almost just desynced. They still got hit by the Piltover Peacemaker, and then proceeded to get Orianna shockwaved onto 3. Otter manages to barely make it out, but is chased down by Dubstep Remix, and with these 2 inhib towers falling, but not taking the inhibs, it means that Lincoln don't even get the consolation prize of getting 2 waves to farm super minions, as they're actually looking to just let them fall and try and hope for that objective to almost funnel into them some extra resources for this Jinx.
Yeah, very interesting macro choice to letting your inhibitors fall, but of course it does give you the freedom to farm under the safety of your Nexus towers.
However, because of the amount of minions that were left behind by DM, it isn't going to die, and it's just far too inefficient to leave the minions to sit there and just hope that they take it in the end, because the minions are going to come out of your base and stop it way ahead of schedule, so... Looks like Lincoln left in a really dire spot. No silver linings for them at the moment. Down a soul, looking at this Baron. They don't have the best tools to face check. Yes, Alistair can walk forward and ult out, but the sheer damage from the DMU squad and the ability for Set to just hold him still. Oh no. Oh no.
Dubstep Remix is just going for the rundown. Ragnarok call. Bean Cuisine is going to flash out to safety. Otter is getting dropped very, very low. Is going to get taken down. Elo Harvester was trying to play as the rear guard, but he is going to fall as well. D2X is forced to flash out. Meanwhile, Angletop is trying to get an advantage, any advantage, but it's only a tier 1 bot lane turret. This is not enough for a good trade, and DMUT1 can more than comfortably walk in with these 4 members, knock down these Nexus turrets, and end the game.
And I think Heavy Dubstep Remix is coming to drop the base as every dying on Lincoln in their own fountain.
They are falling down like Skittles, Callum. The Nexus turrets will fall. The Nexus will be focused. They will try and pad their KDAs a little bit. Spirit gets knocked into the fountain, but the members of Lincoln Ascended will fall. DMUT1 will pick up their 6th win. They are 1 game away from guarantee locking themselves in for playoffs.
Yeah, and a really nice performance from DMUT1. It looked a bit choppy in the early game with how far ahead B was on this Jinx. You could really see how Lincoln wanted to play out this game. They got the Jinx ahead early, it was all going nicely for them, but that one fight around the mid lane bot side bush goes completely wrong for them, swings the gold massively back into DMU's favour, puts Soksu back in the game, and frankly, it was pretty much lights out from there. They needed a miracle play or a hard macro rotation to almost trip up DMUT1 because they are more than comfortable playing out these slow lane states later on in the game.
They certainly are. Let's not feel too bad for Lincoln Ascended, though. They have the strength of schedule to still make playoffs. That, I have to assume, is at least the basic goal. We will see how high they can get. They are in a current 4-way struggle for these last 2 spots. Heartstuck, ESSKT, Lincoln Ascended, and Robbins Cringes, I believe. Bath University, the last one in that sort of 14 pack that are jostling for these last 2 playoff spots.
Yeah, and I think after that game, DMUT1 are pretty confidently going to make it into playoffs. Now it's just fighting to make their way up the seeding. They had a bit of a mixed week last week, losing to the Bristol whipped squad that we will be seeing next game. They did beat Surrey, who is one of the teams that they are in almost like this kind of contention for, trying to fight for these second place spots. We'll obviously get to see more next game, but with regards to this one, I think I'm just going to slap down an MVP on Samjay that game. Really nice, just laning overall, showed Otter up on this Corky pick, clearly just the confidence on their Orianna, absolutely zoning them off the minions, never let them get to those early spikes, and multiple solo kills inside lanes.
Yeah, super clean execution on that Orianna, almost always forcing a flash. I don't think there was a single shockwave that went properly awry. There was always some price to be paid by Lincoln Ascended every time that R button gets pressed.
Yeah, and a really nice game overall. Just exactly what you wanted from DMU-T1. We saw it last week even. They almost did the same thing to Bath. If it weren't from just the raw audacity of ending the game with a Rise auto attack from a backdoor, you would have seen it again that DMU just know how to play these mid to late game phases and just slowly choke you out around the dragons. But with regards to that is all we have for this game, and I can't wait for the next one. It's going to be a banger.
We're in for a treat, ladies and gents. First plays second in the next game of the day. Bristol Whipped versus the Cabbage family. Do not go anywhere. We will break this morsel down for you after a quick break.
I was putting in the hours. I'm sick of fighting the things that you said. I don't wanna burn all our bridges ahead. I'm tired of going to bed when you left me on red just to turn up the noise in my head. I told you that one day ain't never enough. You tell me I hate you, I still call you up. If we don't got trust, we can never have love. I was putting in the hours,